Hey guys, this is Pure and welcome to PHP tutorial number 20. Now I just realized, literally like 5 minutes ago, that I already did a tutorial on the for each loop. But I watched a tutorial over the first time I did it, and it wasn't as in depth as the one I did more recently. So for that reason, I'm actually going to keep the more recent one up as opposed to cut it out of the series, because not only does it cover things better, but also because that tutorial is just after we've looked at loops. It's a bit of a refresher as well. You might have forgotten the for each loop, or you just might not have understood it because we hadn't covered loops and how they work and stuff, as properly as I wanted to at that point. So for that reason, I'm going to keep it up. But I've just wasted a minute, so let's get on with this tutorial now. We're coming on to functions in PHP. What are functions really is something we need to understand before you can talk about functions. Really simply put, functions allow us to do things, really. Like, I know that sounds ridiculous because it just does. But, for instance, say you have a whole bunch of code, like, say you're, to take an example from somewhere, from a resource I looked at recently, say you need to calculate the price of an item, by timesing the price for one times the quantity, and then and then add on the tax, and all that stuff. That's something that's going to be set all the time. So rather, it's going to be set in stone. Apart from changing the values of the quantity and the price and the tax, all the calculations are the same. So I know something like that might be smaller, but you might have something that's like 20 or 25 lines, or 20 to 100 even, or as big as you want it to be, that is all set in stone and always done the same, apart from maybe a couple of variables which change. So rather than type that out, let's say 10 times in each of the 10 places you need it, what you can do is you can create a function, which declares, the function does all that stuff, and it takes variables and it changes the values inside, the tax calculator, depending on what variables you give it and stuff. And it then calculates the total price with those variables. And rather than after that typing out all that code in every place you need it, you just make that function, and then you call the function, which only takes one line of code as opposed to the 20 or 100, like I said, lines that it might have taken if you typed it out every time. Even if you're copying and pasting it, it just clutters up your code, doesn't it? Oops, sorry there. Accidentally muted my mic. So it only takes one line as opposed to the 20 or 100 lines it could take. Once you just have to declare it that once, and then you can use it in one line wherever. Now, I talked there about the most complicated. Again, I use the word complicated in comparison to how the easiest function can look. Really, essentially, functions aren't that complicated, but they are in comparison to easy functions, or really simple functions, I should say. Actually, is a better word. So I've been talking to you about more complicated functions, but for this tutorial, we're just going to be looking at the really simple functions. So I've covered what a function is, as you can see here now in my comments. I've just written out some, speaker notes, I guess you can call them. Now let's look at making our functions. You can already see a bit at the bottom there. Okay, I'm only going to bring my screen down so far because I don't want you to see something that's quite key, actually. But anyway, yeah. Here you can actually see how a function is made, okay? Of course, the keyword function is typed, and then we type the name of the function. Okay, and this can be anything. This can be anything that a variable name is allowed to be. So it can start with an underscore. I'm pretty sure it can start with an underscore. I don't think it can't start with numbers, as far as I'm aware. It can have numbers in it, but the first thing has to be either an underscore or a maybe not ASCII character actually, but an alphabetical letter. And then you can have underscores and all that stuff after. But anyway, I'm sure you're all aware of that, and you're probably not going to start it with a number anyway. There's no point. But anyway, so yeah, you type the keyword function, then the name of the function, and then you type 2 parentheses, okay? And for the moment, we're not actually going to put anything in between those parentheses, but we will in later tutorials. And then you just type 2 curly braces, and inside the curly braces, you type the body of your function. Okay, and so this is essentially the body is the list of things that your